Good morning, everybody. Welcome to morning meditation, wherever you are. For some of you, I think it might be more like evening meditation, but whenever and wherever you are, welcome. My name's Milla, and I'm your guide this morning. I've been your guide this week here at Sangha Live. And I've been sharing, we've been practicing on the themes of the breath, the body, and connection. And we've been doing some kind of experiments and reflection around that, as well as practice. And using these practices and these ways of showing up and interacting with our experiences as a way into our nature, as intertwined, as fundamentally connected, also as processes, not fixed, perhaps without clear or fixed centers or clear or fixed edges. This sense of non-self, anatta. And then, as well as the insight or idea that we are processes, in some ways edgeless, centerless, and deeply intertwined with everything around us, both in the present and into the past. And everyone, all other beings. We started a little bit yesterday to also think about how are we intertwined? What are these relationships of which we're made? What are they like? What's their quality? So these deceptively simple ideas open up and open up, get bigger. The closer in we go, the bigger they get, in my experience. And it's one of the reasons why I really love sharing and simple, apparently simple, or kind of basic practices, because they lead into everything else. And also they're really great reminders. Myself, I love practicing. I love going to beginners meditation and hearing teachings freshly. And they're great for people who are just joining as well. So that's why I chose these themes, and I've really enjoyed this week as thinking about them has unfolded in my day as well. So we spent a day on the breath as a way into and also through meditation. Breath as a way to settle, as a way to connect, potentially as a way to soften, and as a path for exploration of insights like anatta. And the body contemplation, allowing us to develop this secret superpower of steady embodied attention, which is foundational for our practice and also, I believe, foundational for wider lives. And continuing in this theme, I'd like to bring it all together with some exploration of metta as part of our embodied experience and as a quality that we can work with or expand. And metta is a sense of universal friendliness. Some people call it loving kindness. And we can extend it to ourselves and to others. It's something that can arise spontaneously and also that we can invite into our practice. It can also be an object of contemplation and a training and in some ways a learning edge, perhaps as it applies to the body or with people in situations where we might find it difficult to bring metta in. Within the Buddhist tradition, metta is often presented as part of a set of four heavenly abodes or four immeasurables, the Brahma Viharas, and they include equanimity or upekkha, compassion or karuna. One that I particularly love, which is mudita or sympathetic joy, which is the joy you feel in another person's happiness or success. And metta is one of these four. And all of them have practices associated with them. But metta tends to be the one that gets introduced. And there's a common way to practice metta using phrases, often 4 phrases, to express or even to ignite our sense of metta towards ourselves or others, or very generally in the world. For instance, we might say in meditation silently to ourselves, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may you make progress. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering, may you make progress. And you may have metta phrases that you like, that you might use instead, or you may come up with your own. That feel better to you or that feel right to you. It's also possible to use imagery like golden light or any kind of light, or warmth. Sometimes I use phrases, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering in your body and mind, and may you walk cheerfully on a good path with good friends. I sometimes use that instead, which brings in some ideas from other traditions as well. And then once we've got our phrases, or we've got our sense, our visualization of loving kindness that we're generating, we, in this kind of common formulation of practicing metta, we then direct these wishes towards different characters. And these characters might be ourselves, someone it is easy to love, or some character, or even a kitten, an animal, but someone or some person or idea in your life that is easy to love. And then someone neutral, for whom we have no strong feelings, whether it's easy or difficult to love them. And then someone who is difficult to love. Exploring this learning edge of sending metta to those whom we don't like. Because it's possible, and it can be interesting and useful. There's a kind of edge there that we can explore, not to push ourselves into fake sentimentality, but to see what's possible, and then to see what happens as a result, this sense of experimentation and discernment. And I guess I hope to offer this practice in a spirit of experimentation and discernment, so that's your own discernment, rather than with a sense of should. that there's a way you should feel. One of the features of metta is its universality, universal friendliness, sometimes called. It's unconditional nature. So, as I said, we might not like the person or the thing or even the part of ourselves that we're practicing with. What's it like to extend metta alongside not particularly liking something? What's it like to wish someone well who we find difficult? Alongside that feeling of difficulty, not to obliterate it. I spoke a bit about near enemies yesterday in the context of moving practice off the cushion. The idea of states that can arise that are very similar to states or ideas that we're working with, but actually can undermine them. So, for instance, the near enemy of compassion might be pity. It might confusingly arise alongside, but actually undermines the attitude and the actions that would flow from compassion. And one near enemy of the Brahma-Vihara metta is conditional love, love where there's conditions attached. So I will feel universal friendliness towards you, but only if you only if you change, only if you stop, etc. And that's something quite different. And for me, I think they can coexist. It's not necessary to replace one with the other. Sometimes people can feel as though this practice means they must be feeling metta for everyone all the time, especially for those who are behaving terribly. Using metta as a way to kind of bulldoze your judgment and force a kind of acceptance and forgiveness of anyone's behavior or anyone's personhood. And that can be a terrible pressure. So I would avoid that. This is more of a alongside experiment, a parallel to other forms of relational discernment. So I might think of a difficult person or a difficult part of my inner landscape or part of my body that for some reason is very troubling to me today or in general. And I might, a part that I find, a part or a person that I find difficult to love, difficult to be alongside, and experiment with layering in some metta alongside the other feelings and views. So I might find that someone's behavior is very difficult, even unacceptable, and yet that I also wish that they could be happy and well. And I'm also really curious about how this practice can work for our own inner worlds, the different parts of our experience or our bodies. We might even move through the same kinds of characters. So ourselves as a whole, a part of ourselves that we find easy to love, a part of ourselves that we find very neutral, no particular feeling in either direction, and a part of ourselves that is more challenging, part of our minds or inner landscapes or bodies. So again, this deceptively simple idea can open up into all these different directions in practice. Potentially powerful and rich source, landscape of experimentation. So with all that in mind, let's prepare to practice in whichever way you're practicing, standing or sitting or lying, or perhaps you're going to move around. It's all welcome. And as ever, I will guide us in, and I'll share some metta practice in this formulation that I just described. And then I'll leave some open, quiet space as well. So feel free to make any kind of stretches or wriggles, any yawns, any movements that you might like as you settle. Settling into our practice, perhaps taking a couple of slightly deeper than usual breaths or sighs. Perhaps pausing a little longer than usual at the end of the out breath for a few breaths as you settle. And starting with gratitude for this path of practice and to all those who've kept it alive and who continue to keep it alive all over the world through their own practice and their love and support for one another. Thanking particular teachers you might know, and people on the path and in your lives more generally whose support enables your practice, whether they are seen or unseen, known or unknown. Checking in with your physical experience, bringing your attention perhaps first to where your body is meeting the ground. Making contact with the earth. Being both grounded and open, relaxed and yet alert, finding some balance between these for yourselves today that is good for you and supportive for your practice. And allowing your attention to move around your body, around your experience, around your emotional experience, a kind of a check-in or an overall scan. And noticing if there's any areas of bracing or tension. And seeing what they might need. Is it a shift in your posture? Is it some care or warmth? Might place a hand on an area gently to show that it's possible for it to soften if it's ready. That there is enough care and support here. to release some bracing or some tension, some trying, some habitual effort. Just a little bit, just at the edges, just as an experiment. And see what that's like. And then starting some metta practice, bring someone or something to mind that is easy to love. Could be living or dead, could be a person, a place, an animal, could be a kitten. Bringing that person to mind, whether that's visually or a sense of them, whatever works for you. Direct some metta their way. You might imagine placing your hands gently on their shoulder or their back. May you be happy. May you be well in your body, in your mind. May you be free from suffering and anxiety. May you be on a good path. Or any other phrases that you prefer. Surrounding this person with metta. And then releasing that person. Perhaps if you're visualizing, they can move to one side, letting go in some way of that interaction. And directing metta towards yourself, taking that same energy and having it be for yourself in all the ways that you are alive and connected. Because you exist, you deserve care and universal friendliness. In that knowledge, directing metta towards yourself, perhaps placing one hand on your chest and one hand on your lower stomach as a physical manifestation of this care and love. May you be well. And happy, free from suffering and anxiety. May you be on a good path. Allowing this warmth of metta to soak into every part of your being. And then bringing that to a close. Bringing to mind somebody or something that you know, and at the same time, you don't feel strongly about. A neutral character. Bringing them to mind and directing the same phrases or your own phrases towards that person. And we'll bring that to a close. So allowing that person to move to the side or to fade. And bringing the next character to mind with someone that you find difficult to love. Bringing them along, picturing them or bringing a sense of them in. May you also be well. May you be happy. May you be free from anxiety and suffering. May you be on a good path. Even though I find you difficult, nonetheless, may you be happy. and letting that part go, letting that be done, and bringing all the characters together now. Yourself, easy to love, neutral, difficult to love. And seeing what it's like to extend those phrases to all at once, or extend that sense, or that feeling, or that visualization of light and warmth, whichever is easy and accessible for you. And now drawing that to a close, sending the characters on their way, wishing them well. And I invite you, in your own way, if you like, to repeat this practice for different parts of your own self, your own experience. A part that is easy to love, a part you feel neutral about, a part that is challenging, and yourself as a whole. I invite you to experiment with that for the rest of the practice, if that appeals, and if not, sit quietly together. And if at any point this feels like too much, or it doesn't work, or it distracts from your practice, you can move, wriggle, resettle, and discern what would be better for you. I trust you to know what's right. And we'll practice quietly now for some time. Now, as we come towards the close of this practice, if you like, extending your sense of metta to include yourself, all of the characters or parts of yourself that you've worked with, all the people on this call, all the people connected to Sangha Live, and all the people they're connected to. Across time and space, continuing to open out your sense of a universal friendliness until it encompasses the whole world. Allowing that warmth and care to flow all inclusively to all beings. Coming back together now. I wonder how things are. Feel free to share any reflections in the chat. Also, any questions or anything you'd like to share from any experiments you've done this week, yesterday, based on our practice together. So we can keep getting to know each other and using this community as much as possible as a collective source of collective connection and support. And also to mention Dana, be wonderful if you could share some Dana with Sangha Live to help support this practice and this this platform. I'll be sharing my Dana this week with 2 groups I'm working with, organizing to disrupt harmful power, particularly around climate justice So that's also a way to contribute to that if you find that interesting. And I'm very open to any questions, any reflections. Otherwise, we can kind of sit quietly together. And I'm struggling to get the box up for the chat. For some reason, my computer is not playing today, so I'm not able to put in the Dana link, or indeed the link to my own website, which I wanted to put in case anyone wanted to get in touch. But I will ask George to send that out afterwards. Nita has reflected that they find it difficult to offer, thank you, Tim, metta to themselves. And that's, I think, a very common experience. Perhaps to do with our culture, the way we're brought up, something to do with our childhoods, I don't know. And it's a cultural phenomenon. It's something that doesn't show up in all cultures, not in the kind of numbers that it does in the global north. Of course, there's lots of ways to explore it, and not to get into kind of therapizing anyone now, but I would definitely encourage experimenting with it. And the structure of the practice can be quite helpful there, to find some aspect of yourself, perhaps that's easy to love. Maybe there's a part that you like. Maybe you like your little toe. Or maybe you like your own response to birdsong. There might be a part of yourself that you can easily love. And to practice with that one, to practice where it's easy and joyful and rewarding. And then to move to the other areas as a form of exploration or training. Oh, Anthea has put my website in. Thank you, that's really kind. People have been using aspects of the practice, that's brilliant. Curious to know what others used as a neutral aspect of themselves. I discovered I had a lot of like-dislike opinions. Yep, I do too. Interesting to know what parts of themselves people found as neutral. Feel free to share. And Mark has a question here. What do you do when your concentration on the phrases is lost when you fall deeper into meditation? Is this an entry into jhana? I can't speak to whether that's an entry into jhana, but I can speak more generally, I suppose, about deeper states of meditation and the use of language. This will come up earlier in the week as well. I would say that if your attention falls away from the phrases into something that feels congruent and feels deeper, a deeper aspect of the practice. For instance, if it's metta, a deeper aspect of friendliness and connection and well-wishing that has no words, I would say that's great. The language is so imperfect. Often a very good gateway, Not for everybody, interestingly, but often a good gateway. Kind of one of the only gateways we have available to ourselves on this platform. Interesting to imagine other ways of sharing without language on this platform. But for the moment, yes, that's the main way. But very, very imperfect and intended only as a gateway. So as soon as it's less useful than your own momentum and your own connection, your own practice, which may very well be wordless, particularly as concentration states deepen, then definitely just let them go. That wonderful old metaphor of the raft. You take a practice as a raft, and then once you get to the other side of the river, or of practice in this case, or going on to the next island or whatever, you don't carry the raft with you on your head. You put the raft down at the side and keep going. And using your own discernment, what is useful. And if your own practice feels more useful than repeating some phrases, then yes, go with your own practice for sure. They are a raft. They're not the destination. Thank you for that question. We have some neutral earlobes and feet and lower part of the legs. Very interesting. Knees. Interesting. I always find my knees are like very joyful areas. They bring up a lot of joy, so I couldn't use my knees, but different for everybody. Feet and lower legs. That's a useful reflection. I think that we're at times of activation, also bringing the attention lower in the body can be very grounding, and maybe because there's less emotional charge for some, not for everyone, with the feet and the lower legs than with, for instance, the stomach or the pelvis or the heart, which just feels more emotionally rich, perhaps. And the neutral part of the self, the part that is taken for granted, not particularly valued. Great. Any part for where there is less charge, less emotional connection. I guess that's in some ways the heart of the practice, of that aspect of the metta practice, is what is it like to generate these wishes actually without much emotional charge around it. And Frederica talking about reflection, seeing some birth, feeling connected with sheepness and treeness in all things. Great, 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 great. So it has been wonderful sitting with you this week. If you would like to continue the conversation with me, I am available for one-to-ones. So please reach out. Anthea very kindly put my website Movement for Change in the chat. And if you'd like to share dana to support me and Sangha Live and climate action, please do. And each day I've been suggesting or inviting you to take an aspect of the practice, either something that has an insight you've had or something that I've invited, and to drop it into your day, to experiment with dropping it into your day. And I guess my final invitation, as we close this week would be to continue experimenting with that process of experimenting. Moving elements of your practice or your insights into your day and back the other way. We didn't do much of that, but I suppose that happens naturally. But yeah, experimenting. What is it like to drop this breath practice? What is it like to drop this insight of fuzzy-edged process rather than fixed self? What is it like to experiment with metta around some edges, bringing a kind of an interplay between your life on and off the cushion, as they say, and doing it deliberately, and then reflecting and discerning what is useful, because you know what is useful, and you'll find that out by doing it. So I really encourage and invite you to soften the edges of your formal and informal practice and to allow them to enrich each other. So yeah, thank you very much. And I wish you a wonderful week and month to come. Lizzie says it's done a day. Thanks, Lizzie. Wishing you all well and see you soon.